Okay, so I wanted to go back to a point that I just made about the family members. When they introduced them, they said he had two brothers and a sister. Now, I'm very curious because usually when you have an older sister, she takes on the mother role. So, without the mother being in the house, with her being at church or choir, whatever she was doing, what was the dynamics of the sister? What role did she play in a relationship to her younger brothers? Because I think she was the oldest. So, it seemed like to me she should have become second mama. What does she know? She wasn't mentioned in the documentary. She didn't even have a place to, she didn't even give her commentary, her side of the story of what happened. So I'm gonna have to do some research and find out about the sister. I've been reading Twitter all day and Instagram looking at people comments and feedback, and nobody has mentioned the sister, like what she had to say about it. Um Also, I want to mention that our black men just don't have a healthy outlet to share their feelings, especially when I was raised in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s. The boys were taught, oh, get up, stop crying, don't cry, don't cry. You're not a girl. And, the girls, we were allowed to cry. We were allowed to express our pain and stuff like that. But boys are just not. And that explains why when the brother, I think Carrie, went to R. Kelly and told him, somebody touched me. And Kelly was like, nah, nah, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. That was his male protection. I may not be saying this right. But that was his masculinity trying to come out, because I've heard a close male to me share that they were molested when they were young, and it challenged his manhood and it made him feel like he was less than a man. So to combat that negative thought in his mind, he became a womanizer. And he said that's where it all went back to. And so that's why that's what happens sometimes with boys who are molested. They say that either if a woman molests a young boy, he'll reject the woman and accept homosexual behavior, or when the woman, he'll think that, okay, now this woman was dominant over me, so now I'm gonna dominate over younger women. So it seems like that's what happened to R. Kelly. He I've heard or seen, allegedly, let me say that, allegedly, that it might have been the sister who molested him and someone, because they got very mum when it came to naming. They act like, I'll never say the name, but it was a family member, and then with the sister not being absent, it seemed like she should be outraged. I couldn't imagine, that happening to my brothers and me just being silent, not saying anything. So, he developed this relationship with the music teacher, which from the outside looking in looks like it was a good thing, but then it wasn't a good thing, because it seemed like she kind of put the band-aid on top of it and didn't call CPS and didn't notify the school, because it was alleged that she had knowledge of some type of abuse or trauma in his life. And the way she taught him was to put it in your music. And you could tell that R. Kelly definitely has a deep pain in his life, because usually they say when people are musical genius or artists or whatever form of artistry they do, when they're that good, it comes from a really ugly place. It comes from a really dark place. And so she picked up on that and didn't get him the help that he needed, even though by this time, he said he was molested up until 13. By this time, he was probably 15, 16, so he had stopped being molested. But the trauma of being molested and not getting help, he put it in his music. So he didn't finish school. He dropped out of school. He put all his energy into music. He won a contest on the Natalie Cole show and later was signed to Jive. That was a big deal, because unlike today, that was the only way to get a record deal. You had to be signed to a label. Today, you can get views on Instagram, you can get views on Vine, you can get views on Twitter and YouTube, and put your music out that way, and labels come looking for you. But back then, You had to go look for the label and present yourself. So that was a major accomplishment at such a young age by someone who dealt with so much bad things. You know, I mean, I could imagine from R. Kelly point of view, up until that point in his life, he probably felt like there was nothing else, like music was a savior to him. It helped him to survive. You couldn't read or write. You were teased in the neighborhood. You were very shy. You didn't talk to anybody. You were abused. Your father wasn't there. Your mother wasn't there. You know, we don't have accountability for the sister yet. Your brother comes and wants to bring this to you, and you're not mentally or emotionally mature enough to handle, to help him, or at least say, brother, yes, me too, let's work on this together, or let's tell mom together. Like, up until that point, everything was negative in his life. This is the first thing that ever went favorable for him. This was the first thing that ever went right for him. So it had to swell his head. It had to give him that validation, that self-worth, that self-love that he had been looking for, that had been stripped away from him as a child by being molested. So, you know, I just, this was very reflective for me to look at, because as I go back and think of his song titles, you know, I mean, he just was so open. You know, his titles are screaming the reality of his actions, you know. And I'm just saying, like, by the end of the second episode, I was like, okay, so are the feds gonna be at his door in the morning? Are they gonna, like, what, is he gonna have handcuffs on? Like, I mean, I feel like this producer was playing a dual role. Like, she almost is the prosecuting attorney against him. Like, she stacked up so much evidence, so many credible witnesses. Like, here's this sign, and like, people are not, it ain't just saying allegedly, but people are saying, I saw him in the act. We saw him. We busted in on him on accident and saw him having sex with underage, a minor. We saw him in the studio having sex. He's got a freaking bed in the middle of the studio. Like, all this evidence is stacked up against him. So I just want to say that two things in closing. Number one, mothers, fathers, holding fathers accountable too. Even if you're not with the mother, in your time that you spend with your child, teach your young children how to fight back. Teach them to kick. I tell my goddaughter, you better kick, you better scream, you better bite, you better do the windmill punch, you better act a pure plumb fool to get away from somebody who's trying to touch you. I tell them those are your private parts, and they're private because nobody else is supposed to touch it. And if something ever happened, you better tell me, you better tell your mom, you better tell your dad. Don't hide that from me. Tell me that. Tell us that. You know, at least let the people think, the guy or woman think you crazy. Even we know you're not crazy, but you better fight like you are crazy to get them off of you, you know. And we have to tell our children that they matter, that they mean so much to us, that you're not gonna let anybody hurt them. And keep that open door. We gotta stop yelling so quick at our kid. Shut up, sit down, go in there, don't do that. You know, we gotta stop doing that mess, you know, in our Black community, in our young adulthoods that we're having children. We're responsible for the development of a emotionally, spiritually, mentally mature adult. And you cannot create that. You cannot develop that if you're constantly yelling at your kid. Don't bring me that. Why are you doing this? And come in here. Say that. Come on. Get a grip of yourself. Get a grip to yourself and take time out and speak lovingly to your children. That's the first inroad that's going to make your child want to come to you. They don't want to come to you because you yell at them for everything. So we have to, parents, we have to change our mind. Yeah, our mama yelled at us. Yeah, our grandmother, our aunts and uncles yelled at us. But we're going to break that cycle, because we're going to create a healing for our children, for this next generation that's coming up. And create an emergency plan. I thought about that too. I remember when I was in high school, this is back in the payphone era. My dad used to give me a quarter every time I went out, and he would tell me, if something happened, call me. Something happened, call me. And I don't know what it was going to happen, but you know, I had the quarter. I didn't know when to use it for what, but I had that quarter to call. Now we have cell phone. Now we have tracking services. Our kids, I saw an app they have for like Uber, where if your child is in the Uber and they feel unsafe with the driver, they can hold their thumb down on the button or whatever, and it'll record every 10 seconds. It just loops and it'll record the location. I don't know if it records the conversation that is being had, but at least it's immediate contact. So we have to be more invested with an escape plan, with an emergency plan, and teach our children, look, if you're ever in this situation, this is what happened. And you have to drill it. I used to be in the military, and one thing came second nature. We had drills every Thursday. It was called Sergeant's Time Training. We went over combat. We went over how to, like, medicals. If somebody gets an arm, bone, just any kind of accident, incident, we went over this training every freaking Thursday. And we got so bored with it because it's the same thing. We were like, why do we have to do the same thing every Thursday? And when the sergeant said, because it should be second nature. We keep doing it until you can't, until you don't think about it anymore. You just react. You just respond. And we have to drill that into our kids too. We have to create this emergency plan with them until they don't even think about it. They just react instinctually. So, and the last thing I want to say is, I'm glad that she had the psychologist on to add that commentary and to explain the psychosis of the why. We get the psychological understanding of why. And I thought that was very powerful. That was very insightful because it's kind of gives us that insight to say, okay, look at the signs. Okay, watch for this. Look at your kids. Make your kids come sit. Don't just say, hey, how was your day? Make your kids look at you eye to eye. And if they look away or if they looking around, they can't, what's wrong? What happened? Tell me what happened today at school. How was school today? You know what I'm saying? Man, who did you talk to? Where did you go? Not like an interrogating way, but you want to know. What did you like about school today? One thing I learned from my goddaughter, when she goes to school, apparently the teacher splits them up. They can go on the mat and do some kind of reading, or they can go on the computer. Well, she likes to go on the computer. She don't like to go on the mat. But you know why? Because we had to work with her reading. She didn't feel confident with reading. She didn't like reading. So we started reading to her at night, and now she's getting better. She has a tutor at school. But see, we wouldn't know that if we didn't ask her. So what'd you do today in school? How was school today? So we were able to catch it and get her help. So, and now she's more confident. She can spell ball. She can spell blue. She's only in kindergarten, but we've been working with her, and she's so happy. She's so proud of herself now. So, I think parts 3 and 4 come on tonight, so I'm going to save the rest of what I want to say to add it to that. But I really appreciate y'all tuning in and listening. Please share. Please tell a friend. Like I said, if you have that constructive criticism, if you want to add something, put your comment down there. I know everybody been talking about it this morning, so we're probably all tired out from talking about it now. Everybody has their opinion, and everybody welcome to their opinion, so I think it's going to start a conversation on a larger scale. One more thing I did want to mention is that, with the Bill Cosby thing, they scooped him up quick. Things escalated quickly. And even though it's been years and years, we didn't hear about these attacks on these white women with Bill Cosby. This stuff just came out all of a sudden. With R. Kelly, we've been hearing stuff. We've been hearing little, and we turned a blind eye to it. We didn't pursue it, but he was preying on black women, black girls. So there's the difference. We have to take care of our community. We have to look out for our community. We have to we have to really have this conversation, y'all. This is deep. We have to really have this conversation. So I'll be back with y'all maybe tonight after the show airs. I may give my live, immediate reaction. I like to do immediate reaction. But we'll see. And it's Friday night. I can stay up late. I ain't got to work tomorrow. So I'll probably do an immediate reaction. But I thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have enjoyed the rest of your day.